This is True Colors of Cybersecurity. Powered by CISOSHARE in Southern California to be enjoyed globally, we discuss the unspoken truth in the cybersecurity industry. Check out our other episodes at cisoshare.com/cyber-security-podcast.
Welcome to another episode of True Colors of Cybersecurity. I'm your host, Celine. We sat down with Mike Gentile, President and CEO of CISOSHARE. This time we're talking about virtual CISOs, also known as vCISOs. Traditionally, as the title implies, a single vCISO is an outsourced security leader for an organization. But how a virtual CISO integrates into a given organization is different in every situation. As companies are starting to focus on strengthening their security programs and qualified cybersecurity resources are in higher demand, vCISOs are becoming popular options for companies that don't want to hire a complete in-house security team. Single vCISOs might also work if there are some security roles in-house, but no leader to manage the overall function of the security program as a whole system. vCISOs might also be a popular option for companies that need an interim security leader as they're starting to hire their own security team. But how do you know if a vCISO is the right option for your company? Is a vCISO all you need if you're just going to start building a complete security program? What are your options as you're looking for virtual CISO services? We recorded today's podcast to answer some of those questions and demystify what a virtual CISO is and what it should be. If you're starting the selection process for vCISO or are starting to explore the idea to see if it would be a good fit for your organization, the first step is to see what the expectations are. We mentioned earlier that there is no one definition of a virtual CISO. It's nebulous, and much like the definition of security, varies from person to person. If you're looking to bring a virtual CISO into your organization, start by understanding what everyone expects from the role.
So if you, in the common board, many of those people still have those legacy understanding of what's needed, which 3 or 4 years ago was that you performed a penetration test and maybe you had 24/7 monitoring, legacy managed service provider do something for your organization. I've been in so many organizations that's the definition of a security program. And with that, this vCISO is both the person that can build that program and get everything running. And so if that's the level of understanding of your board, and I can tell you, I've been in $billion organizations where the majority of the board still thinks that is a security program. If that's the case, it's going to make it really difficult if you're in the position of trying to get that person, or if you are a vCISO or security leader who wants to come work for the organization, of really managing expectations. So the first tip is to take a look at where your decision makers are in terms of their level of understanding, and some little gotchas too that happen specifically at the board level. The really hip thing these days is to put someone with security skill set on your board. I see that, 4-star general, or, someone that's a leader of, perhaps a security technology out there that's on the executive team, that's taking a board seat. Those folks, while brilliant in their disciplines, commonly have difficulty explaining what's generally needed from a security perspective down in the trenches. And so at the org, if that's where many of the board members are getting some of their information or what they're doing for security, coupled with a legacy understanding of when they were in the position a while back, that can be really problematic moving forward right off the bat. And that goes also for, any other people that are in the organization as well. These days, whether security reports to the CIO or other parts or legal or whatever, all of those people, if they're involved in the process, particularly perhaps they're even decision makers, if their understanding is also legacy or not necessarily what's truly needed in today's times, then you're going to have some problems, right? So your first step is to break that down.
As you're consolidating your team's expectations, start to evaluate and consider what you think the security role should do, as well as what the current landscape looks like in terms of cybersecurity resources.
It's changed really. There's not too many people that have actually run and built up a comprehensive security program, just because really people have only been building them, say, the last 10 years, and it's gone to a different level over the last 3 to 4, like we talked about. So if there's only a handful of folks out there that have that experience. So just because someone has any experience, or maybe they were doing it, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be able to execute. The flip side of that is that there's also a problem out there of the people that do have that experience. They're like rock star style right now. So though they might be able to serve you in that position, be wary of situations where it's like one person who maybe was a valid security leader and now they're out on their own and are going out there, because it's really easy for those folks to slip in where they start out doing 1, and then they're doing 2, and then they're doing 3, and then they're doing 5, and then they're doing 20, because any of us that have been around in security for a while, we're getting hit with 10, 20 requests a week, right? It's kind of like rock star status. So those are some other things to kind of think about.
The next thing you should understand as you start looking for a vCISO is your current state. It helps to understand what's going on in your environment, good, bad, or ugly, and to start fixing or remediating some of the easy fixes or low-hanging fruit. That way, when you're talking with potential virtual CISO, you can have a conversation with them regarding the environment, what needs to be done, what exists, and what you're hoping they can help you accomplish.
A vCISO or a security leader, but they don't really understand some of the elements associated with what's really going on, right, in the environment. And if that's the case, if you really get someone that's talented, that's talking to you about helping you, they're going to want to understand those things, and you're not going to be able to speak intelligently about them. And it just becomes really hard to get the right person, especially in a competitive market.
Then we shifted gears to address the question of security leader versus security programs. vCISO is a term often used to describe a single person or role for a security program, but we've also found that vCISO can refer to a whole security program instead. This ties into what we mentioned before, in that everyone has their own understanding of what a virtual CISO does, especially since security itself is nebulous and touches on every aspect of an organization. So how do you know which one you need? Well, it starts with understanding what you're looking for. So we talked about what goes into a security program versus what a security leader should do. For us, a security program, or what Mike also refers to as your organization's security effort, should have 4 basic capabilities. The first is to be able to establish a definition of security.
Is what we call the definition of security in your organization. So, and that generally is the roles and responsibilities, the people that are in it, as well as the security policies and procedures and standards and all of the things that if people ask, what is security here? That's what tells it. A lot of times people get caught up on that definition, on, elements of the definition, whether a password should be 6 characters or 20 characters. I've had many a dialogue, probably, the last time I have that conversation, I think I'll have a beer in the room. But I get asked that all the time. And what I always tell people is it's actually more important, in my opinion, to establish whether it's 6 character or 20 character. And that's your job in security, is to actually define it, than it is whether it should be 6 character or 20 character. Because when I usually ask that, well, do people know, it's all over the place? Well, that's going to cause you a world of problems before you even get anywhere else. So that's the first capability.
The second capability is the ability to measure across the entire organization on a repeatable, systematic basis.
I think risk adds a lot of confusion and complexity in our discipline. Essentially, though, that's what is generally known as. But what's most important is that you're collecting information all the way across the business, up and down, on a repeatable basis.
The third capability is the ability to make informed decisions. You do this by gathering information from your measurement activities and organizing it in a way that organizational leadership can make informed security decisions. Simply put, these are meetings, dashboards, and reports to communicate information you get from your measurement. The final capability is the ability to execute on these decisions, which Mike describes in 2 different ways.
Of the decisions that are made by folks based on the other steps and the capabilities in the process. And then the other execution is the ongoing performance of those processes, such as policy management and dashboarding and performance of risk measurement and different measurement activities in the organization on an ongoing basis. So all of those items many organizations struggle with, but what's most important is that you have them, but also how they interact with each other so that you have a complete system.
The other part that a proper security program or security effort needs is security architecture. At a high level, this is the management of the preventative and detective safeguards in your security environment to address any vulnerabilities or risks.
Security program system in your organization. But if you don't have an effective security architecture that addresses some of the susceptibilities in today's world, you're still going to be pretty hosed. And that's what a lot of people are learning really rapidly. On top of that, it's not just that you have one technology in place. It's how all the technologies work together in unison. So now within that, you have the development of those foundational items, which is development of policies, development of a program charter, all of those types of different things, development of a risk management program. That's one thing that needs to be in place in order to have a security, a healthy security system. You also need to have just put in place a healthy security architecture and all of those items.
But having all of this in place doesn't mean your organization is secure. Putting together all the policies, processes, technologies on different layers won't mean much if you don't have the right resources to perform these processes on an ongoing basis. So what does that mean when it comes to VCISOs? For one, ridiculous job descriptions.
Of that role, I mean, I see them every day. I go there and I still laugh, because it's literally impossible for these folks. But you'll go and see, we need a security leader. We need them to be able to develop all the security policies, develop the risk management program, do training and awareness, do risk reporting to our board, manage and operate the security architecture, and preventive safeguards, recommendations on incident response, and all of that. And so really a vCISO should be someone that performs probably a lot of the management capabilities for security in your organization, as well as a lot of the reporting functions and doing that. But with
having an effective security program is more than having a single resource. Effective security involves risk analysts, security architects, and security engineers. You may not need to have a full-stack security team, but it depends on the size of your organization and your environment.
When you're in your process, that's why really measuring current state is so important, because you need to understand, do I actually have valid security policies? Do I have an effective security program system? Maybe I need professional services to build out the policies, to build out the risk management program, to build out all those things. On the security technology side or architecture side, do I have the right preventive and detective safeguards working with each other? And are they appropriately managed? And then where am I at with that? And then what roles do I need? And how much effectively, can the vCISO play, and what other roles and people or resources are they going to need in order to be able to do that? And
your current state is vital to getting to know your environment, understanding where the virtual CISO comes in, and educating the board on what security needs, which leads us to the next topic, spending. How much should you be spending on your security program to bring in the right vCISO? Essentially, this all comes down to what you find based on your assessments. Take your best practice assessments, security architecture assessments, and any data that you've gathered from any other current state assessments. What you find will start to prepare you for what costs you should be looking for.
That all ties back to really doing an assessment. So we use a couple of different techniques here. We have a best practice assessment. We have a security architecture assessment that we look at. And we also have a scoring application out there that looks at dynamically measuring both of those elements. And the key is that you look at the foundational development items, so the one-time things you need to build, and then you need to look at the ongoing roles that you truly need. Maybe that's a security leader, or maybe that's more. And I want to be straight up that the average organization, our largest segment that's growing, is very small startups and middle market organizations. And their budgets for security are like getting blown away because just because you're a smaller organization right now does not mean that you don't need all of those components. And you can take the path of not building them. But the reason people are is because usually they're coming to us with active incidents and they're trying to fix those incidents. And then they're like, okay, we actually need, this won't stop. So then they're needing to do it. So doing an appropriate best practice assessment is crucial. And in doing that, you want to know the one-time, the foundational elements, as I talked about. You also want to know ongoing. So you want to know your CapEx costs and then your ongoing operational costs for resources.
In order to get an accurate idea of what you'll be spending on security, however, also depends on getting an accurate and thorough assessment. We talked briefly about the idea that the separation between auditing or assessing an environment with one group and bringing in another group to conduct the remediation and how it doesn't make sense. Mike equates it to bringing your car to one mechanic to see what the problem is and then taking the car to a different mechanic to fix it. It doesn't make sense, so what should you do instead? Get a remediation-focused assessment.
Like legacy dogma to have someone do an audit. The people that do your audit shouldn't then be involved in the fixing, right? And that works in financial models. It actually blows in security. So it blows in security because you wouldn't bring your car to someone and have them do a diagnostic on it and then bring it to another mechanic to fix. That's one thing. Also, the skills of a pure auditor that comes in, they often generally haven't built anything. So you actually want people that are assessing and measuring current state with remediation in mind and fixing in mind. It's going to make your spend a lot more accurate. And then the other side of that is you get what you pay for on the assessment. So there's a lot of folks out there doing these very quick free assessments, and just remember you get what you pay for a lot of times on that. And sometimes they're good, but oftentimes they're not going to give you accurate numbers. And then you're really kind of burned, especially if you're communicating that we need to understand that current state and you're setting the table for it.
We also touched on another popular option for organizations that are looking to build their security programs: outsourcing.
One of our offerings that we have. And in that model, we build all the foundational elements. And then we also supply not just the virtual CISO, but all of the roles. And that might be something that I think that's really gaining traction. I know it is in our business, just because it's so hard to find people that it makes more sense for a lot of organizations.
And that was our conversation. There is no formulaic process to hiring a vCISO. The best way to approach it is to educate yourself, understand the expectations of leadership at your organization, and to be well informed as you start your search. We hope that you found today's episode helpful. If you have any feedback, questions, or suggestions for future episode, we would love to hear it. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn at CISOSHARE. You can learn more about the podcast at CISOSHARE.com/cyber-security-podcast. We'll talk to you all next time.